And your piece of the family. This episode, I want to talk about, give a breakdown on why your favorite athlete or athletes who may make a whole lot of money, you hear rumors of them going broke, and they are going broke and they don't have the money they used to have anymore and stuff like that. And I think it's a disconnect between the average everyday working individual or people who don't even have jobs. They may live with their mothers, or talking about grown men and women who may live with their moms or live with other people to help take care of them. But I'm saying just from the average everyday person, they don't understand certain things. When you're like, perfect example, Floyd Mayweather. You hear that, man, Floyd Mayweather broke. He going broke. He this, he that. Now, a lot of Floyd Mayweather fans, they're going to be like, oh, they just hating. Floyd ain't going through nothing. Yeah, the IRS put a lien on him, but that's okay. That don't mean nothing. They saying he going broke. He got plenty of money. He got 500 million. And they're going to buy what Floyd Mayweather put out there, information that he put out there, and their perception of what they want this guy, or even their favorite other athlete, whether it's a football player, basketball player, or whoever, right? They want them to have, their vision of their idol, who they worship and love. And it's the total opposite of what it is, right? And I think so I want to break it down for the common man and woman to understand. I listened to a podcast called No Free Lunch by Ndamukong Suh. Ndamukong Suh was a defensive tackle who got drafted by the Detroit Lions years ago. I think he played for the Rams. I think he played for Philly. I'm not sure, but I know he played for Tampa Bay Buccaneers because he won a Super Bowl with our team right here in Tampa. So let's give a breakdown of the money, right? Because when people think about football, and boxing. Let's just talk about boxing. And boxing, you hear fans all the time on social media. They think these fighters is rich and boxers make a whole lot of money. It's the total opposite. It's total opposite of what you think. Everything you thought about, all this money that's in boxing, is a goddamn lie. You see what I'm saying? And I'm going to break it down for you right now. Because what happens is the average fan, you look at the 1%. Floyd Mayweather, he's retired, but he was the 1%. Oscar De La Hoya was the 1%. Canelo Alvarez is the 1%. Terrence Crawford is the 1%. Those guys are the 1%ers, the Tyson Furies, the Alexander Usyks and stuff like that. Well, when you look at the 1% that's making an elite level amount of money, a lot of those guys was overpaid a lot because of Turk Al-Sheikh. But prior to Turk Al-Sheikh, they was making still good money, but Turk Al-Sheikh took it to a whole nother level from a pay scale standpoint. But outside of him, you're looking at the 1%, and a lot of you guys think that the 1% represents everybody else. You're looking at the Canelo Alvarez's, and then the Terrence Crawfords, the Tyson Furies, those guys, and then you have a tier up under them. You're going to have the Gervonta Tank Davises. You're going to have the Ryan Garcias, and those guys get big money depending on who they fight. Like when Tank and Ryan fought each other, they made the most amount of money fighting each other. Now, outside of them fighting each other, they don't make that same money because that fight was an anomaly. That was a one-off. That was, a lot of the social media fans and a lot of the influencer boxing fans tuned in for that. A lot of the super duper casuals tuned in for that. But now if Ryan Garcia, when he fought doggone Devin Haney, it did great. It did good. But in comparison to the Tank fight, it did nowhere near that. And vice versa. Tank fought Ryan Garcia. It did great numbers. And he made some good money. But when he fought Lamont Roach, it was the total opposite of that. Did you get what I'm saying? So depending on who you fight, depending on what the demand is from the people, that determines everything. But let's give a breakdown of the money. And what I want to do, I want to allow Ndamukong Suh to break it down how it goes in the NFL. And I'm going to tie that into exactly what's going on with your favorite athlete in boxing who y'all worship so goddamn much. Let's get to it.
Let's talk about something fans almost never think about when they picture the NFL. Because when people imagine this league, they imagine the stars. The quarterback signed a $50 million contract. The huge deals breaking across ESPN, the players who seem like they've been around forever. But that version of the NFL only represents a very small part of the league. The average NFL career lasts about 3.3 years, which means most players are out of the league before their fourth season. So today, I want to break down the real economics of the NFL, how the roster actually works, how the money is distributed across a team, and why the career most fans imagine is very different from the one most players actually experience. Let's dive into it right here on No Free Lunch.
Now, I like what he said. He said when you do the breakdown of the money, it's actually different from how the fans actually, how the fans really imagine it is. When you hear about the football players, you hear about Tom Brady, you hear about Peyton Manning, you hear about Patrick Mahomes, you hear about the guy that's over there that's the quarterback of Buffalo Bills, you hear about the brother that's the quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. I forgot his name. You hear about the elite guys, and you think, oh, he's in the NFL, everybody making millions. No. It doesn't work that way, right? Even the ones who may make millions, he's going to give you a breakdown of the money. And then I'm going to tie this into boxing. Because, you're going to be oh so surprised. And guess what? When I did my search, I didn't even look at boxing from a global standpoint. I just looked at what was the average pay of boxers right here in America, because Americans feel like they so entitled. We do here in this country, and you got to come to America. You want to get the big money, get paid the big money. And I keep telling y'all, a lot of these fighters who y'all worship, be fighting and doing 12-hour live shows over on YouTube outside of Turkey Island Sheik. I'm like, these dudes ain't no goddamn stars like that. They stars on the Boxing Boys. They stars on YouTube boxing channels. They stars on with the other YouTube podcast. They stars on there, and that's a very, very small group. Outside of that, ain't nobody talking about these niggas. For real. But let's get into it.
Hey, Danny, what's going on, boss dog?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good as always. Happy to be here with you. I love this conversation because we talk about, I'm trying to get that baseball money. I'm trying to get that basketball money, But
yeah.
And there's some players that in the NFL that are really getting crazy bread, right? The quarterbacks, the $50 million, $60 million a year guys.
Hey, man, I was telling somebody the other day, I came out at the wrong time. I was super blessed, and I ain't going to be ungrateful by any means. But Micah Parsons, $43.3 million a year, boss man. But go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted, man. I just had to say that.
What was the most you made in a year? On paper.
So, I mean, I was blessed. I was blessed. My peak earnings, I was averaging $20 million a year.
Okay. That's a nice number.
Yeah, it's a nice little bag. I was very, very happy living in Miami. Young Thundercat, acting a fool, as my wife would say.
Yeah, the Aston Martin music, the Rick Ross playing in your head.
Yeah, for sure.
Hair in the
Wind. No hair in the wind. No hair in the wind, man. Had a fresh fade.
Yeah. So I know this number, it's like a number going around of how long the average NFL career lasts. Do you know that number? It's like 3-something years around, give or take?
Yeah, 3.5 years, man. It's crazy.
I'm glad he brought that up because again, and I know what you guys are probably saying, what this got to do with boxing? Every goddamn thing. Because we're talking about athletes, professional athletes, whether you're a professional boxer, baseball player, football player, hockey player, whatever. We're talking about professional athletes. This is how this is the breakdown of it, right? We can break down what the average fighter makes in America. And most fighters in America are average. 90% of them, maybe more than probably 95% of them, right? Canelo, the Canelos, the Crawfords, in America, those guys are the 1%. The Ryan Garcias, the Tank Davises, those guys are the 1%. And then there's everybody else. So I'm saying in America. I'm not talking about in Japan with a New Way. He's a part of the 1%. I'm not talking about in the UK with Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, and in the Ukraine and with Alexander Usyk. Those guys are part of the 1%. I'm talking about the average fighter. And when you look at your fight cards, there's a bunch of average fighters. Jarrell Big Baby Miller, he's an average fighter. He's not looked upon as the elite, the 1%. He's not nowhere near the 1%. Do you get what I'm saying? Deontay Wilder would be considered a part of the 1% because he have made 1% money as well. Do you get what I'm saying? So just want to throw that out there. But let's finish listening to what Dominic and Sue have to say. I really, really like this topic.
So getting back to the money of it all and the reality of these rosters, we see the big numbers, the Micahs, the Dak Prescotts, but like
Yeah.
What's the reality of some of these guys that are, the journeymen on the fifth year, the sixth year, and like the disparity in the locker room as being one of those high earners? What's their reality?
Yeah.
Now, that's a damn good question. What's the reality of the average boxer? What's the reality of Bam Rodriguez? What's the reality of a Rolly Romero? What's the reality of a Usmael Barroso? What's the reality of, because there's levels to this. People always say there are levels, right? You can't compare Bam or David Benavidez to Canelo. You can't compare Oshaki Foster or Raymond Ford or Abdullah Mason or Keyshawn Davis or Shakur Stevenson. You can't compare those guys to Terrence Crawford. You can't compare those guys to Canelo Alvarez. They're not going to make the money that those guys have made. Do you get what I'm saying? So, I like in boxing, I look at it as the 1%. And then you have like the mid-tier fighters, the guys who's right up under them. And then you have the lower bottom half, right? And some of these fighters who are really very, 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 very talented, they're not going to make the kind of money that the Crawford have made. Those guys are not going to be on the Forbes list. I'm talking about throughout their career, when their career ends. Because he has a 17-year career. Canelo's been in the game for what? 21 years now? I think he turned pro in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. And this is 2026, so that's 21 years. Still on top, from a draw standpoint. Because a lot of these guys are not draws. They don't make them. They're not a draw like that. But they want $10 million a fight. They want $7, $8, $9, $10 million a fight. Edgar Berlanga locked up and got a big money payday for fighting Canelo. He'll never see that payday again. Never. You get what I'm saying? The money that Ryan Garcia made fighting Tank in the ring, he'll never see that money again. Look, he just fought doggone Mario Barrios. What did those tickets sell at? How many tickets did Mario Barrios and Ryan Garcia sold? The pay-per-view went quadruple plastic. You notice they haven't been talking about that? I just want to throw that out there. And Ryan Garcia's looked upon as one of the high earners. Not on Canelo or Crawford's level, but he's a high earner. He's up there with Tank and all that stuff that he's there. You get what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with being there. That's some good money because those fighters make good money. But however, there's a lot of those fighters like the Schofields and this and that. Those guys are $100,000, $200,000 fighters, $400,000, $500,000 fighters. And then we're going to do the breakdown of what's left after you hear those numbers. Lord have mercy. See, because it ain't what you make, it's what you keep. You don't keep what you gross. We're going to do a breakdown of it. Okay. Boxing is bro, the crookery in boxing, but y'all have no idea. But I digress. Let's continue.
Man, and this is where I really want to not necessarily expose this, but bring this to reality of a lot of fans. You got to understand, you see all free agency. It's a highlight of what the major contracts are going on. And then what you don't realize after that peak of the first 2-3 weeks, all right, there's a tampering period. And I hear now you can do FaceTime and you can do all these different things before the new league year. That's all for the top free agents, the top 20, 30, 40, 50 guys in the league that owners and GMs and head coaches are trying to go and get to set as a cornerstone player. Then free agency is still going on. And this is where you're filling out your roster with guys that are great players, going to add huge success to your team potentially for the upcoming season. You just don't know yet. And they're making anywhere from maybe $5, maybe $10 million contracts for 2, 3, 4 years, or a guy's on a minimum deal that's $750 or $1.2 million, $2 million bucks. And then guess what? You're also filling in your practice squad and all these other particular pieces where guys are making, I think practice squad at this day and age is like $150,000 or $100,000, like, which is real money, but that's not sweet and sexy and an amazing headline. So, and that's really what I would say at minimum.
You heard what he said? Did you hear what he say? He said it's not sexy for a head. It's not sexy for. It doesn't make for a sexy headline. See, you'll never hear a sexy headline about Oshaki Foster, how much he got paid. You'll never hear a sexy headline for Raymond Ford, how much he got paid. You'll never hear a sexy headline for, Jarrell Big Baby Miller, or any of these other guys who y'all be arguing over all the goddamn time online and stuff like that, right? You'll hear a sexy headline for a Tank. You'll hear a sexy headline for Ryan. You'll hear one for Canelo. Because a lot of these fans, you guys live vicariously through your fighter. So you think because you heard your fighter made a lot of money, and because you Mexican or because you black or whatever, that he represents you, that fighter don't give a fuck about you because he's in a different socioeconomic class than you are. It's about the haves and the have-nots. You get what I'm saying? So I like the fact that he said that it's not sexy. It's not sexy headlines because it's not. The fact of the matter is, bro, when I break this boxing portion down, boy, it's gonna break your heart. It's really gonna break your heart.
Having gone through that experience in seeing the best of the best and where you can be and where you're in the quote unquote middle of the road, like it's a big difference and that's what fans don't understand. It's like, man, there's guys that are, again, still living paycheck to paycheck because $100,000 and you're getting hidden with the jock tax and cut that in half. Like you're playing for New York. That's $50,000 that you're bringing home. Think about that. Think about that. Let's just bump it up to 200 grand. You're living in New York or / New Jersey. You're making 200 grand and you cut that in half. That's 100 grand, but they're expecting you to live like the superstar that's making 40 million a year.
Look,
that ain't mathing.
Danny Sellers that lives in New York. I didn't know there was a New York tax until I looked at my check. We on this show we talk about like, hold on, why did with the players? And it's funny when you listen to the show, it's like, how would you not know about the taxes and stuff like that? Me, Danny Sellers, worked on a financial show, went to business school. Like, I'm like, there's a New York tax. What is this? A couple $100 coming out? It's just
hey, man,
you don't know if you don't know.
People don't realize when we play in New York. I'm playing for Miami. I'm going up to play in the Jets. Mm-hmm. I get taxed in Jersey. I get taxed in New York multiple days because there's a thing called duty days as well that you got to calculate. So you better have a good CPA.
That's crazy.
You guys get the idea. It's a long interview, but I just want to break this down because I want to segment this into where I really want to go. Now, I went to Gemini. Shout out to Gemini. Gemini. I went to Gemini and I looked up what is the basically I typed in what's the average pay of a professional boxer in America. And I want you guys to see this question because that's what I put in there. You guys can do your own research on it. That's what I put in there, right? What's the average pay of a boxer in America? And it's going to give you the breakdown of what it is, right? Professional boxers pay in America. Matter of fact, I want to make sure I have this right so you guys can see it. Let's look this up right quick. All right, now, professional boxers' pay in America is a tale of extremes. While the elite earn tens of millions of dollars per fight, the vast majority of professional boxers earn a modest income comparable to entry-level service or trade jobs. So let's say you're on the job and you're entry-level on your job, right? You're going to make entry-level pay. If you work at McDonald's, you can't expect that I want to make $25, $30 an hour. No, you have a McDonald's skill set. McDonald's skill set don't dictate you making $30 an hour. It don't take much to do that. So as soon as people that was in McDonald's and then these politicians were saying we need to raise the minimum wage to $15, $20 an hour and all that stuff there, look in California. I call California the socialist state. And then New York and New Jersey, the socialist states. I look at them because, their tax game is serious. They hit you with, of course, you got to pay federal tax. We all got to do that. But then they hit you with a state tax. They hit you with a breathing tax. They hit you with all these different taxes, subway tax, public transportation tax. Bro, by the time you get paid your money, if you was making $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, bro, you'll probably be bringing home $30,000, $25,000, $50,000. Just throwing that out there. You get what I'm saying? Just, you know what I mean? I'm just giving you some ideas. So just want to put that in perspective. Now let's look at the fighters. Let's give a breakdown of what fighters make. Professional boxing pay in America is a tale of extremes, while the elite earn tens of millions per fight. The vast majority of professional boxers earn a modest income comparable to entry-level service or trade jobs. As of early 2026, so this is recent, here is a breakdown of what professional boxers actually make. Average annual earnings. The average salary for a professional boxer in the United States typically falls between $30,000 and $45,000 a year. Let that sink in. It's people right now that have YouTube channels that make more than that a year. Just sitting in front of a camera like I am with a ring light, Sony camera and his microphone. Literally, make more than that. And don't take one punch. I digress. These are the tiers, the earner tiers, right? Estimated annual payout. Top earners, the 90% percentile. The 90% percentile, which is the average fighter, they're gonna, like if you're a top earner, they're gonna make anywhere between $47,000 to $80,000 per fight. That'd be like the Floyd Schofields, those guys. The guys who don't have titles, don't have belts, they may have a regional belt or something of that sort. They're gonna make by $300,000-$400,000. It say 80,000 plus. So that plus can be 300,000, 400,000, 200,000, 150,000, whatever that plus may be, right? Now, most fighters, your average fighter, the average pay is anywhere between $39,478 to $43,000, right? Entry-level fighters, they make anywhere between $14,500 to $30,500. That's not a lot of money, as you can see. The average salary in boxers, the 90% earners in boxing make anywhere between 47,000 to 80,000 plus. I mean, you got YouTube channels. You got dudes who, I'm not talking about in boxing. I'm saying I know people who got real big YouTube channels make more than that. Do you get what I'm saying? So let's continue. It's a per fight, the purse. Most boxers do not receive a traditional salary. They are paid per bout. Beginners typically earn anywhere between $1,000 to $4,000 per fight. Mid-level fighters, once they have a solid winning record and some local following, they can earn anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 per fight. Contenders, fighters ranked in the top 10 of their weight class, can earn anywhere between $50,000 to several $100,000, depending on whether the fight is televised on a major card. The elite 1%, let's go. At the very top of the sport, the numbers become astronomical. For context, in 2025 alone, Canelo Alvarez reportedly earned $137 million, $125 million from fights, plural, and $12 million from endorsements. So, when people say, well, Canelo made $150 million fighting Crawford, that was a lie. That wasn't true. Canelo never said that. Turk Al-Sheikh never said that. Canelo, it says right there. Now, these are the people who keep track of the money. It's also on different media outlets pocket watching outlets like Forbes and stuff like that. Basically, Canelo had 2 fights last year. He fought William Skull. He got paid for that. Then he fought Crawford. He got paid for that. Those 2 fights combined, he made $137 million. And then if you add in you made $137 million. He made $125 million for those 2 fights combined. And then he made another $12 million with endorsements. That's a lot of money. 2 fights, $125 million. You do the math. Now, let's go back. Someone like a Terrence Crawford, because he was on the Forbes list as well. Highest paid earners. Terrence Crawford earned roughly $66 million last year alone. He only had 1 fight. He fought Canelo. Tyson Fury brought in approximately $146 million last year, ranking him as one of the highest paid athletes in the world. And I think Tyson Fury fought, who did he beat? I think he fought Alexander Usyk, because that's where the majority of this money came from. He fought Alexander Usyk. They fought twice, if I'm not mistaken. So he fought Alexander Usyk. Now let's look at the hitting costs in boxing. Lord have mercy. Y'all gonna love this. The hitting cost in boxing is this. It is important to note that a boxer's purse is not their take-home pay. And I think a lot of you guys in boxing who worship your favorite fighters or these athletes fail to realize that. You hear these numbers and you think, yeah, man, he bringing all this home. No. We finna do a breakdown of the money.
True.
Why do you talk about money? Because I want to. Tell a motherfucker time again, my nigga, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Simple as that. But I digress. Let's continue. Let's break this down. Let's break down the money. Now, it is important to note that a boxer's purse is not their take-home pay. Professional boxers are responsible for paying their own team out of their winnings. Let's break it down. The promoter, someone like an Oscar De La Hoya, I'm for the fighters. I want to make sure that the fighters get paid all of the money. You know, Dana White and Zuffa and all those other guys, they're robbing the fighters. We finna break that shit down. Oh, okay. Well, we want to look out for the fighters. Okay, let's see, Oscar. Let's break this down. It say promoters, like Golden Boy Promotions, they usually take home 20 to 33% of their fighter's purse. So let's say, Ryan Garcia got paid so many millions of dollars. Golden Boy gonna take about 33% of that coming in there. Anywhere between 20 to 33% off the gross. We're not even talking about IRS yet. I digress. Let's continue. Promoters usually take 20% to 33%. Managers typically take 10 to 33%. So if you're a manager like a Rick Morigian, someone like Virgil Ortiz's manager, the reason why he's trying to get Virgil Ortiz paid the most money possible, because the more money he can get paid Virgil Ortiz, that's the more money he's standing to make from his cut. If he getting 33% and Oscar getting 30-something%, you can just imagine what Virgil walking away with. Virgil making what, $3 million a fight? Well, after Oscar get his cut and Rick get his cut, and then he got to pay his trainers and stuff. And guess what? The IRS going to get 38 to 39% of what you grossed of that 39 million, of that 3 million. You do the math. I digress. Let's continue. It says managers typically getting anywhere between 10 to 33%, right? On the low end from the high end. Trainers often receive 10%. Then you have sanctioning fees. Oh, you got people like Mauricio Suleiman. Mauricio Suleiman want more than that. He say if you're fighting for a title, organizations like the WBC or WBA, they take an additional 3%. Mauricio Suleiman, the WBC, I'm hearing that they charge fighters more than the other sanctioning bodies. That's what I'm hearing. It say after paying for their camp, they got to pay for the camp, travel, medical insurance. Many mid-tier boxers take home significantly less than their advertised purse. How much do you think a fighter's win-loss record impacts their ability to negotiate purses, or are you more interested in the sponsorship side of business? So if you're a fighter and you don't have sponsorships, like in the NFL or different other sports, you don't have sponsorships. You don't have Gatorade sponsorships. You don't have sponsorships with golf. You don't have sponsorships with beer companies and stuff like that. Like someone like a Canelo, he has sponsorships. You know, I think with golf, with different beer companies, with Budweiser and stuff like that. You know, you get what I'm saying? So some fighters have sponsorships and stuff like that. Most of these fighters, they not doing what you think they doing, bro. We hear the. So, and this is why, I'm gonna give you another example. This is why on YouTube, like the fights that get the numbers are the big name fighters. The people are more, because of the fan base that's in boxing now. The fan base that's in boxing now, they're pretty much come from influencer boxing. You get what I'm saying? So the influencer boxing, they're caught up on the lifestyle. Oh, he got this, he got that. He riding this, he riding that. You see it happening in rap music, in hip hop, but just in hip hop in general. Because no other music genre glamorizes materialism like hip hop. A rapper, 99% of these rappers is broke in the mud. When I say broke, I mean they don't have the money that they're advertising. 99% of these rappers are fools. Idiots. Nigga, you got to pay IRS their money. You have a cost of living that you got to keep up with. We're not even talking about the cost of living. We're not even talking about you want to live in a nice neighborhood. You want to live in a neighborhood like what I live in. Or more, bigger neighborhood. You're living outside your means. Fam, baby boy, look here. That's why you got to have a good CPA. I got a team. I'm saying me. For my business, I have a team. I'm not going to put the company name out there that I work with. Not going to even do that, because I'm not trying to give nobody no free game. I'm not. But I'm going to say this. These guys ain't bringing home what you think they bringing home. As I said before, in boxing, but they don't make a lot of money in boxing. They don't. In the NFL, they don't make a whole lot of money. As we said, as it got broke down, those top tier guys make money. But then guess what? If you're a fighter, and let's say you got a fight in New York, Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia fought in New York. New York, their taxes is high. Ryan got paid this. Devin got paid that. So the fans, Devin Haney fans, Ryan Garcia fans, yeah, my fighter rich, he got paid this, he got paid that. But then what you don't know, because that's what's being glamorized, what you don't know, they got to pay that jock tax that he talking about for NFL. New York gonna hit you. You're an athlete, you make a certain amount of money, and then now New York got a socialist mayor that they voted for. So we know New Yorkers love socialism. They like getting taxed and getting all their money taken from them because this is what they voted for based on their votes, right? I'm only going by what they voted for. Guess what? Nigga, half of your shit gone. Then you trying to keep up a certain lifestyle. Then you got to pay the trainers. You got to pay your manager. Someone like a Devin Haney Promotions, if you're working with the promoter, he got to get his cut. Matchroom, Eddie Hearn got to get his cut. He gonna get his cut. You get what I'm saying? You know, so that's how that works. If you on top rank gonna get their cut. You got to pay your managers. You got to pay your trainers. You got to take care of your training camp. You got to pay your taxes. You're not going to get around that. The more money you make, the more money Uncle Sam wants. So if you don't have your business structured correctly in order to take advantage of all of the different tax breaks that's out there, yeah, you making money, but it ain't what you make, it's what you keep. That's the reality of the situation. So, and there's a lot more that I want to add and interject to this, but for the sake of, I don't want this video to be too long. So for the sake of that, I'm going to just nip it in the bud right there. But I'm going to do a part 2 to this because, there's a whole lot of misconceptions that's going on about all this money that's in boxing. As I said before, Turki Al-Sheikh is the exception to the rule. Did he overpay all of the fighters that fought on Riyadh season card? Absolutely. Every fighter that he paid, from the biggest name to the smallest name to anywhere between, got overpaid. And again, I don't care because it ain't none of my money. But I'm just saying, once they got paid, guess what? You got to start doing subtraction. Because the guy who made so many millions, he got motherfuckers to pay. Uncle Sam gonna get their bread, bro. And depending on what state you fight in, that could be a double tax. If you fighting in California, Lord have mercy. Hell, if I was a fighter, I wouldn't fight nowhere other than I wouldn't fight in no state that had a state tax. If you got state taxes and jock taxes and all this other stuff like California, New York, I would never fight there. Never. I mean, Vegas, I fight in Vegas. I'm just saying if I was that top tier fighter. You want to fight in Vegas for tax purposes. Just that alone. Or you want to fight in Texas for tax purposes. Or Florida, tax purposes. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't know what it is in the UK, but I'm talking about in America. So when you look at the top tier fighters in America, you're going to look at, I'm not going to count the retired fighters. Crawford just retired, so I'm not going to count. You're looking at Canelo. Ain't nobody bigger than him in America. That's just the reality of the situation. Then you got the Tank, and then you got the Ryans and the Haney, the Devin Haneys and stuff like that. Shakur is a little bit under those guys from a pay scale standpoint. And then Keyshawn is under Shakur. And then, then you got these other guys who are up and coming stars who y'all grovel at so much. The Boost Ennis, I think him and he making the same amount of money as the Virgil Ortiz's and stuff. Those are those like bottom mid-tier guys. They get the hype like they superstars, but they're not. They don't get paid like that. So then you got to watch how you live. You got to watch your cost of living. How you live. You know what I mean? If you're only making $3 million, you don't want to be living a $5-10 million lifestyle. So how fighters go broke. I'm going to break this down. I'm going to close it like this here. Someone like a Floyd Mayweather. If you're making, like I said before, I made $100 million, this and that when I fought Canelo. Okay, cool. You made $100 million. How much of that $100 million did you bring home? Cut that in half. IRS. 40% of that is IRS. So if you made 60, if you made 100 million, subtract 40 million of that. So that leaves you 60. Then you have all these expenses. You got to take care of your trainers. That promoter that Floyd had to work with, Golden Boy, whoever, they gonna get their cut. They not doing it for free. You get what I'm saying? So Al Heyman got to get him. See, Al made sure that money go to an account that he controlled. Al was smart. And then you have all of these, I make smart investments. You buying skyscrapers in New York, buying skyscrapers in Dubai. Of course, I'm being facetious, but that's what Floyd said. You got all these skyscrapers. You got all these cars. You live in luxury. So you spending. So if you're spending $30-40 million a year, buying Gucci, buying cars, doing this and that, $30-40 million a year buying jewelry, but you only bringing in $10-15 million a year. Guess what? You upside down. You in the red, baby boy. Yeah, you still making millions, but you're spending more than what you got coming in. That's broke. For all you fanatics out there, Flomos or whoever your favorite fighter is who you argue so much about online. Rich people broke and poor people broke, because me and you are poor in comparison to the 1% athletes. It's two different brokes, but it's the same thing. If you have more money going out than coming in, that means you're spending more than you're making. You are in the red. That's how this works. That's what going broke means. So yeah, he made $20 million, but how much did he keep? And what type of lifestyle he's living? Did you get what I'm saying? Just want to wrap that up. We're going to do part 2 of this. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Leave your comments below. Tell me, what do you think? You know my motto. Don't meet me there, beat me there. Peace.
Man, I'm out of here, bro. Let's go. Man, I'm out of here, bro. Let's go.